Hi, everybody. My name is Hemant, and I'm an alcoholic, and I haven't had the first drink. With the grace of God and the help I received from Alcoholics Anonymous. I was just discussing before we started this meeting. I was asking Philip what steps he's planned to do today, and he said, I think the ninth and 10th, but he'll also, I think, recap the others. But I'll move on here. We have to live in the now. My program of Alcoholics Anonymous, or everybody's program for that matter, is a 24 hours a day program, which means that I have to live in the absolute now. I cannot live in my past. If I live in my past, all those problems of the past, I'm dragging them into today. Well, then I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to be emotionally disturbed. My relationships are going to be bad and disturbed. So I cannot keep on living in the past. I have to make amends to all those I had hurt, to all those people who were there in my life, who have suffered because of my drinking. I had to make amends, living amends as well as other amends to those people who who were potentially going to be hurt by me. And unfortunately, or fortunately, or whatever it is, I cannot live in the future. I cannot live for tomorrow. I have to live in the now, which is what the 10th step is all about. The ninth step is about getting rid of all those resentments, all those fears, everything, making amends to those you have hurt. And if that's what we want to talk about, well, that's what it's about. Now that my past, I've settled it. I'm out of my past. I'm living in the now. The 24 hours right now become the most important part of my life. I'm what is my emotional quotient today? What is my relationship with everybody around me today? Am I still the same? Has there been a change in my thinking? Am I still resentful? Or what is a beautiful line on the 10th step, on the 10th step, which is, am I still selfish? Am I still dishonest? Am I still resentful? And am I still fearful? And am I still in self-pity? Am I still all doing all those things? And then they talk about love and tolerance being my code. you know the 10th step actually teaches me how to live today. That's the most important part of my life. Whatever has happened in the past, I can work at it. With my sponsor, I can work at it. I can work out my spleen. I can get rid of my resentments. I can get rid of my fears. But today, what is my relationship with my immediate family? What is my relationship with my wife, with my large family? What family and friends? What's my relationship with the world? How comfortable am I in my own skin right now? Do I still get upset at everything which is said? Am I still childish? Am I still grandiose? Am I still emotionally crippled? Emotionally sensitive, as they put it, but frankly, it means that my emotions go haywire. Are my instincts still at rampage? What exactly is my way of life today? Am I happy? A lot of times we hear to be happy is happiness is an inside job, and it's very difficult to be happy. But is it difficult to be happy? How important is it? This one line says a lot of things. They talk about restraint here. They talk about the grouch, and in the 12 and 12 they talk about the grouch, and on page 64 they talk about the grouch and the brainstorming being but dubious luxury for normal people. But for us, it is simply murder. It is killing yourself. Have I got over it now? On the 12th step, they talk about restraint. They talk about loving everybody, not only those few who are around us, or being at peace with the world around us. Peace. That word is such an important word in my diary today, because it's one of the most important. Because this is what it is all about. Am I still at war with myself? Have I ceased fighting everything and anything, including alcohol? Has the problem gone away? Do I have a daily? I have a daily reprieve because or do I rest on my laurels and I say, all right, yeah, I've done the program, I know everything. And if that happens, this is what happens on page 120. They describe it so well. If my spiritual condition is not good, well, I'm liable to be unhappy, and that's not what life is. That's not God's will for me. God's will for me is pretty simple. God's will for me is living life in the now, 24 hours a day, without reservation. Give in, live and let live. Don't try to control situations. Easy does it, which means don't take everything with a pinch of salt. Learn how to laugh at yourselves. As an alcoholic, when I was drinking, I found the most difficult thing was I could not laugh at myself. I took myself far too seriously. Today, I laugh at myself. I may tease another friend of mine, but I'm not laughing at his expense. I'm laughing with him. If I know he cannot take it, I will not crack a joke at his expense. And if he says something, I know how to handle that too. I can when I say something, it is said out of affection. It is said out of love. It is said out of respect for him. That the other person is like me. He enjoys a good laugh at his own expense. The small little things here, but this is what life is about now. This is what I am learning. The 10th step. The 10th step teaches me to take in the morning, to plan in the, to look at myself. If there's something happens which, and they talk about it, it's a spiritual axiom that if something disturbs me, I am wrong. And it's never different. They talk about all this. And what are they talking about? They're talking about is that, Hemant, you have to fit in. You can no longer afford to be maladjusted to life. All those three things the doctor talks about. You can't keep on running away from reality. That's not what A is about. On the 10th tradition, the beautiful words they use. Today I'm a citizen of the world, which means that I am a normal human being. I'm no longer that alcoholic who was aloof. Today I mingle, I'm not single. Today I'm a part of everything. I'm a part of every celebration in my family. I'm a part of every celebration in A. I celebrate my life every day. I thank God. I'm full of gratitude. I thank God that I don't need to drink. That's the 10th step as far as I'm concerned here. Taking inventory. Why am I getting irritated? What's happening? Taking spot inventories. Taking a yearly inventory. Where was I at this time last year? 2 years back. 2 years back, I wasn't in the stage of mind I am now. Thanks to Zoom meetings. I've come back to reality. Today, I'm back to what I used to be. I'm happy, joyous, and free. And that's what the A program tells me. That's what I have to be. And before I hand it over to you, Philip, thank you so much for doing this back to basics workshop with us in the Bangalore trip. I welcome you all to this back to basics workshop led by Philip, and he's doing a wonderful job here. And I'm learning so much from each time he opens his mouth. He says it's divine intervention. Well, I believe it too, because at the end of the day, these words, whatever you plan, what really comes out of your mouth is what God puts in there, and we are doing God's work here. Yeah. You're working with somebody else. I'm putting my life, I'm putting my words on the line so that somebody else somewhere gets the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. That recovery starts when one alcoholic talks to another. And over to you, Philip. Thank you so much. God bless you always. Thank you. Over to you.
Hi, my name is Philip. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Welcome to our Back to Basics workshop. Thank you for turning up in numbers to make, to reassure me that, after all, we're doing something together that is making, that's showing results, and that's making better people about us. I wish each and every one of you a very happy Christmas. This is one of the seasons where most of us went berserk. We wanted to have fun, but the only fun that I knew in any Christmas that I had was being drunk and not remembering the next day what fun was all about. And eventually waking up during Easter time, that's 4 months, and I would wonder where all these months and days had gone by. That was the typical life of an alcoholic that I lived for 22 years of my life. So today, when I look back at my life, and today is a season of forgiveness, a season of rejoicing, the season of, and the Christianity thing, it is that, Jesus Christ gave his life, so that we would be free from our sins, from the inadequacies that we face. He took it upon him. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but that's about it. And what we're doing today is step 9, and it's all about forgiveness. And when you look at this forgiveness business, it's so soothing. You remember, when we fought, when we were drinking or otherwise, how we wanted others to forgive us, how we pushed them and said, say you forgive me, I'm sorry, just to get reprieve from that momentary fix that I was in. And as I grew up, step 9 was a necessity. And how did I come to step 9 is what I want to talk about today. And if time permits, I'll do step 9 and 10, and then do step 10 and 11 and 12 the next session. This is basically for all the newcomers here. Please feel welcome. If you have a drinking problem, you're in the right place. And my definition of an alcoholic, listen carefully. Who is an alcoholic? Any individual who cannot guarantee his or her behavior after they picked up that first drink is essentially an alcoholic. Another catch here, every time I drank, I didn't get into problems, but every time there was a problem, there was a drink involved. So if you identify with these small couple of sentences, probably you are an alcoholic. I mean, I don't know. They say if you walk like a duck, you quack like a duck, and you swim like a duck, you probably are a duck. So it is for you to ascertain you are one or not. Now, for the newcomers here, please put your hands up, who are in their first year of sobriety, so that we could felicitate you. We could, wish you, Tejas, Suresh, Shahanu, Nirasha, Bella Patel, Joe Kenneth, Harsha, Shabir, Hemant, not Hemant. Where is that little rat of mine? Sunesh, he's there. I saw him around. So yeah, thanks for coming in, and thanks for being a part of this journey. And as an alcoholic in recovery in early stages, I had so many questions. It's all about doubts about life, why I became the person I was, what made me the person I was, how were people instrumental in making me the person I was? Why did I hate myself? Why did I look at myself differently? These were the questions that I asked because I had a massive inferiority complex, and to override that inferiority complex, I would bullshit a lot. I would live on the laurels of someone else's achievements. So that's the sort of life I lived. So for those newcomers who are here, if you think that you're a gone case, we were all gone cases. Today we make a case out of ourselves and we present ourselves as members of this world and citizens that are rightfully worth living with. So here we are in Alcoholics Anonymous, and the first step, I came to Alcoholics Anonymous not because I drank too much of tea or soft drinks or things like that. I drank alcoholically, and I drank differently from people. I had a different attitude towards life. I was maladjusted to life, they say, maladjusted personality, and I was bodily and mentally different from others. Now, if we resonate with that, what is this being morally and mentally different from others? It is that you thought differently, you reacted differently, you are hypersensitive, where most people could take or leave, whatever was said to them. Me, I would rule over it. I would, gasticate it, or we call it mental masturbation in my head, and I would make a mountain out of an anthill. That's what it was. And normal people could crack a joke and move out. So here I was, that's a maladjustment to life. I didn't have coping skills and I didn't know how to relate to one another, And that's when alcohol came into my life. And that was a reprieve that I had. Alcohol was a medication. I was looking for the magic formula, the tonic, the pick me up that I wanted to get through with life. So here, alcohol started having its toll on me. And, alcohol is such a subtle foe. It's such a wonderful lover, whatever you want to call it, a companion. It took me places I didn't want to go. It did things to me that I never dreamt I would get into, and yet I didn't give up, on that chemical alcohol, because that ease and comfort that came with a drink that only an alcoholic like you or me would understand, a normal person wouldn't understand. The state of mind of an alcoholic before he picks up a drink. There are a few of you who are on recovery on their first 4 or 5 days. And believe me, if the first few days are difficult, but getting to meetings, is very important, because here is where you get the identification. You come to a meeting not on your own free will. You are led in here through a divine intervention, so I believe. And there is a profound personality change happening to you, subject to your accepting the fact that you have a problem and you want to deal with it. So welcome to the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And here, first step says, I'm powerless over alcohol and my life is unmanageable. No, I need to see that I've stopped drinking. What was the unmanageability of my life? Stopping drinking was never my problem. Staying stopped was my problem. I couldn't stay stopped because I like coping skill. I like perspective. I was maladjusted to things and everything around me, bodily and mentally. So, I couldn't stop drinking on those lines, because 10 days I would stop drinking and then my physique my body would recover. And then the mind takes over. The mind is a very subtle foe. Alcohol is a subtle foe, they say, but I'd say my mind is a subtle foe, because my subconscious mind, in that it recreates that ambience, that beauty, that flowering episode that I had with alcohol, and where I was the winner. For all 100 times, probably I have had 1 or 2 good days with alcohol. The rest were all disasters. I was a disaster waiting to happen and living that disaster that happened. The disaster that happened to me, and that was alcoholism. So stopping drinking was never my problem. And they say alcohol is but a symptom of my deeper inner lying conflict. So alcohol was symptom. What the symptomatic? The irritability, the restlessness, the discontentment, the fears that ruled my life. The sum of my drinking was equal to the sum of my fears. So I had to accept this. I had to deal with it. If I didn't deal with it, I was going to go for a drink. And so I had to accept the fact that I was an alcoholic, and alcohol and me wouldn't gel. So I was allied. They said it's a threefold disease, mental obsession coupled with a physical allergy that leads to a spiritual bankruptcy. Now, what is a mental obsession? A mind that obsesses and says, Philip, this time it would be different. In spite of what I have been through, the losses, the as-yets that I had been through. I'd lost my job, I'd lost my health, I'd lost my family, I'd lost my own dignity, in front of everyone else. My self-respect I had to compromise. My self-worth, the compromises that I had to make because of alcohol. So I had to accept these facts. And in totality, when I accepted the fact that alcohol was the reason for all this, and my unmanageability led me to pick up another drink, I had to address these issues. And the second step is all about that. I was restored to sanity over a drink. It was alcohol that was the problem. I had a problem, nevertheless, I was maladjusted, like I said, I had a problem, but I thought alcohol was the solution. The problem was that alcohol multiplied my solution, my problems. From something that, could have been tackled or I was getting on with, it just went out of gear, it just blew out of proportions. And I had to deal with this alcohol. Either I had to stop, like in the book, We Agnostics, it says, to be torn between an alcoholic death or choose a spiritual way of life are not always easy alternatives to face. So I had to choose, it's either this way or that way, it's like sitting on the fence. I would fall. If I fell this way, I would die. If I came this side, I would probably live. So I chose the second part, to the spiritual way of life. So I was restored to sanity over a drink, and I knew that it was not me. It was not Philip who had done it. Something beyond Philip had done it. And the sense of reasoning happened to me. Earlier, that sense of reasoning would never be there. There would always be justification, rationalization, because this is a very deceptive sickness. Self-deception was a part of my sickness, So self-deceived that I was, I couldn't see through all these, hazes that was there in me, the mask that I had worn, the lies that I had concocted, the lie that I was living. So here I was, I came to believe that it's something beyond me only can restore me to sanity. Sanity means soundness of mind. That means I was of unsound mind. So my body recovers. Now my mind is playing tricks on me. And he says, now, Philip, you have to find lack of power as your dilemma. You have to find a path that's going to sustain you. So what did I do? They said, take a 180-degree turn. The road there you're traveling is to insanity and death. You take a 180 degrees turn, come back, and let us address the situation. Let us confront what you have left behind. We shall not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. So what did I regret the past? I regretted me, the person I had become, and I was running away from myself. So when I take this 180 degrees turn and come back, I'm handing over my will and my life over to the care of God as I understand him. By now, I could call him God because it was a group of drunks that got me sober. And this God concept didn't appeal to me, because I would walk out of meetings also when they talk God. But then they made me understand it's the collective numbers, the power of Alcoholics Anonymous that has kept you sober. By yourself, you could not do anything, And I had to believe in that, even though I was in denial of that fact. So I made a decision and I handed it over, my will and my life. My will, what is my will? My will is what I want to be, what I want to do, where I want to go, what I want the world to be. That's my will. The way I think people should think, that's my will. And what's my life? My life is the wreckage that I've left behind, the remorse of my past, and the regret of my future. I'm already living a disaster in my future. They say in AA, you have one leg in the future and one leg in the past, and you're peeing all over today. And that's what Hemant was saying. I am not living today because my head is full of remorse, guilt, fear of the future, and the remorse of my past. Now I need to deal with it. If I don't deal with it, there is going to be no sobriety at all. That's what I'm told. It seemed a big deal when I was first told about it, because I'm one of those guys, who is a idealist. I want everything, but I don't want to work for it. And when a lot of us are at that stage where we are stuck on step 4, where we want to, we want the program, but I'll work it in my time. That sort of attitude. And those of you who have been regulars here on this Mangalore group would have seen so many fall off the wagon. Their pain, their trauma that they have to go through. Why? Because we couldn't take that, little trouble of accepting that far greater than ourselves and wanting to look at ourselves so that we could understand. For me, an alcoholic like me, I needed to understand. Just telling me about things did not resonate. It did not go in well. I had to see reality. So when each one of you slip or, you have a problem and we talk about it, what we say is there, but for the grace of God, that could be me. So rather than take somebody's inventory, why that person went through all that, it's very easy to say, if he had listened to me, but then let me look back from where I come from. If I had listened, probably I would have stopped drinking much earlier, but that is not to be. So you are, a child of this creator, the creation that we are in, and that creator has created a masterpiece. Now, if you see yourself differently, it is not God's problem. God has created you, in his own image. Deep within every man, woman, and child is the basic concept of God. It may have been marred by calamity, pomp, and other issues, it is said, but it was there. So I had to find that inner resource, that God factor in me, because this is very important. If I don't find something beyond me that is helping me, I will go back to drinking, because alcohol always was a power greater than me, In spite of it ruining me and me knowing that I was going downhill, I couldn't leave it. I couldn't take it or leave it. That was the way it was. So here I had to find a power that was going to sustain me. And the moment I find that power and I hand it over, I am asked to do step 4, a searching and fearless moral inventory of myself. Moral, why does it say moral? Was I immoral? No, I had to know what was ethical and non-ethical. What is moral, what is immoral? I didn't know. I couldn't differentiate right from wrong. So I had to find out why I was feeling the way I was feeling and why I became the person I became, in spite of me not wanting to do those things that I did. Just most of us, if we recount our past, we would see that most of those things that happened during our active alcoholism or addiction were things that none of us wanted to do. Did you want to cheat? Did you want to steal? Did you want to slander? Did you want to subjugate someone else? No, in my right sense, no, I didn't want to. I knew it was wrong, but why did I do it? That is what addiction is all about. That is what the sickness of alcoholism is all about. That is what I need to understand and address. So, where is the sickness? The sickness centers in my head. Now my head has to be cleansed. I have to get my side of the street clean. That means when I say I had to get my side of the street clean, I had to get rid of all the debris that are there. You know, the resentment, the name, the fame, whatever I was looking for, you know, the jugglery, the adultery, you know, the burglary, the slander that I did with others. All these things, I know that there was part of my addiction. And Alcoholics Anonymous very rightly says that, you know, you are not responsible for your sickness. As in any sickness, nobody is responsible for it. Sickness just happens. The pandemic just happened. But I'm responsible for the recovery, for my recovery. So if I have to recover, I have to know what the symptoms were, what the causes were, you know. I have to understand that where I come from, the prognosis and the diagnosis has to be done. And we are both the doctor and the patient, they say. But by now I had a sponsor who I was looking up to. He was sincere. He was more understanding than me. So I made a moral inventory of myself, you know, all the hates, the resentments, you know, the stealings that I did, you know, padding accounts, slandering someone, being jealous, character assassinating people. No, these are things that I did. You know, there were lots of names, you know, in my fourth step inventory that I didn't want to address because, you know, that is how I felt about them, or I was scared about them, these sort of fears. So when I put them on paper, I saw them to reason, you know, to see why I had that fear against that particular person, you know, what made me do the things I did. And then in the end, you know, what was my, a contribution to whatever has happened between that person and me. So when I see my contribution and when I see where I come from, you know, there's a lot of understanding. I see myself, I see my character defects, you know. What are character defects? Any of my basic instincts gone haywire is a character defect. Instincts gone haywire. They say, you know, it's a character defect. So if I abuse my God-given instincts, it becomes a character defect. So what are the character, you know, instincts? Instinct of survival is the first. Instinct of sex is the second. Instinct of security is third. And fourth is instinct of society. So everyone has these, but when we abuse any of these instincts, it becomes a character defect. And there are different branches to it. So after I've done this, I sit down with another person, address to God, to myself, and to another human being the exact nature of my wrong. So first time in my life, I've taken an inventory of myself, you know, all the stock that I have. Now I have to see what I have to discard, what I have to learn to live with, and what I need to inculcate, you know, buy in so that I would, you know, enhance myself to a better way of thinking and living. So here I am, you know, at step 5, sit down with another human being. And why this other human being? Because, you know, I'm so good at bullshitting myself, you know. I'm so good alone with God. Why couldn't it be with God and me? I could say, but this is not the way it is done. Because I am such a, you know, professional bullshitter, a pathological liar. You know, I will never, you know, I'll say, okay, I'll address this later on. And I'll be there itself, complacency. Most of us are here when you're, I mean, I could name a few who are still on step 4, but can't get on with it. You know, they're stuck there. Now, what keeping them there is that, you know, their willingness to hand it over. And my suggestion is if you're stuck on step 4 and 5, pray about it. Ask God to give you the willingness. The key to willingness is what, you know, will open the doors to all your insights that you need to look at. I mean, that's my experience. I struggled with it for quite some time. And, you know, that they said, get on to your knees, pray to God. Humility is the core essence of this program. If you don't have humility, you're not going to work. And, you know, every step is a humbling process. It humbles me that when I take a step, let's say step 4, I don't want to see myself. But when I do it, I see the arrogant, inconsiderate person I was. So you know, when I look at myself there, it's a very humbling experience, you know, to realize that after all, I'm not the person I thought I was. So here I'm talking to another person. And here comes the next stage, you know, where we leave it to God, step 6. The step 6, it's of paramount importance, you know, when you say, have be to and entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Entirely ready. Now, what are these defects of character? Defects of character are, like I said, instincts run rampage, instincts haywire. It could be jealousy, pride, maladjusted to life when we call it, it could be resentment against somebody. It could be the fears that dominate your life. So these are the, character defects that rule my life. The moment I got up in the morning to the time I went to bed, my character defects always told me what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And, that is not a nice way to live, It's not, nobody wanted, I hated getting up in the morning, and I hated going to sleep. I didn't want the lights to go out. I like darkness, yes, but I didn't want to sleep. Why? Because I had to deal with those demons in my head. So when I come to step 4, I'm looking at those demons, and step 5, I sit down with my sponsor and another human being, and, I address those issues. In the sense, when I talk about it, it's an emotional reprieve that I have, something that was burdening me, holding me down, is being released. It's like taking, doves in a cage and leaving the doves. You see them fly away, or you take a dog which has been tied the whole day, those you care dog, when you leave the dog loose, the bugger runs, the freedom that he gets, he runs, the chain is off him and he runs. So that's the way the freedom, that I got when I came out with my step 5. Yeah, but that does not stop there, because I've still not dealt with my character defects, which led me to a drink. So what do? Step 7, I entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So I list my defects of character. I list it and see where I stand. I make a list of people I have harmed, hurt, names are there, all of them are there. Now is the step, that connects me from step 3 to step 6 and 7. For those of you who are still allergic to the word God, you can call it whatever you want, him, her, it, whatever it is. But you need a source, a power greater than you, something bigger than you to guide you to your life, So without me, I alone can do it, but I cannot do it alone. So, but without God's help, I cannot proceed from here on. And if I don't proceed from here, I'm sure to go pick up a drink, because the day and time will come and my character defects will get the better of me. And that has happened so many times. If you are observant, if you're a regular at meetings, you will see this happen to those who, who don't follow the precepts of the program, So yeah, so when I come here, at step 6 and 7, humbly asked him to remove my shortcomings. So my character defects, I know what it is. What are my shortcomings? My shortcomings are my little mistakes that lead me to my character defects. It encourages me to indulge in my character defects. Those are the shortcomings, telling a lie, trying to get away with, small slander. That leads me to bigger things, supposing I have a problem with sex and I stop pornography, suddenly my mind will say, let's look at that, man. So that is, putting a finger into something that you shouldn't be doing, indulging in something which will lead you to a character defect. Stealing. You have ambitions and you don't have the resources for it. What do? You steal. And that's a character defect. You tell lies so that you can feel better about yourself. So, it all starts with the shortcoming that leads to a character defect. So step 6 and 7 are God steps. I do nothing. Like in the other steps, I had to find a God, I had to do this, I had to do that, I had to write down an inventory, I had to sit down with another person, say the 5th, 6th step prayer, all those things. But here, this differentiates, this separates the men from the boys. By now, I have an understanding of who this power greater than me is. What is this divine intervention, this divine power that got me to Alcoholics Anonymous and made me the person I was? It changed my life. It changed everything in me, So I hand it over to God, He is the one who's going to work on these 2 steps, step 6 and 7. So that is the preparedness for me to get on to step 8 and 9, which we're going to talk about. Step 8 is I made a list of all persons at harm and became willing to make amends to them all. That's hard. Made a list of all persons with harm. I've got the sickness of forgotia. I forget, what I have to do for others, what I have to give. I very conveniently forget, and then I'll say, I'll do it sometime later if it is to be done. Now, here we resolutely take the step, of yes, I'll take down the names of people, places, and institutions that, are hurting me, of what harms I had done to others or what others had done to me, and the names of them. So I make a list. People I owe apologies to, people I need to make amends as far as the money matters go, people I abused, whom I had to go, people I had tormented. So there's so many ways, I have abused myself, self-abused, and abused others as well. So I look at the abuses I have done to myself. So I made a list of all. In this step, I sit down with my sponsor. And I make a priority list as to which I be doing first and which could be done at a later stage. Just because I got the names on paper, it does not mean I jump into the time and opportunity will present itself. Like I'd say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Made direct, coming into step 8, which I discussed very keenly last time. I come to step 9, make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Now, direct amends. Amends are of 3 types. When I'm looking at amends, there are direct amends, there are indirect amends, and there are living amends. So I have a list. Okay, direct amends, taking personal responsibility for my actions and confronting the person I would like to reconcile with. That's a direct amend, So I'm taking a personal responsibility. I had this responsibility with my brothers, whom I really tormented during my drinking. And there's this brother of mine who still does not, seem to have forgiven me totally. But well, I had caught the arm. So I had to reconcile with him. I remember I went to him and I said, Georgie, I'm so sorry, what happened? That is verbal. What he told me was, okay, Bala, whatever has happened is happened. It's over and done with. Let's get on with life. This is what in attitude, jo ho gaya, theek hai. Abhi, let's see what you can do about yourself. That's what he said. But that was not very comforting to me. But my sponsor said, Philip, you took that effort of going and making that amend. Whether he receives it rightly or not, it's not your problem. Now, most people would meet me halfway with my amends. When they see that I'm making an effort to pay back or to do things right for what I had done wrong, most people will meet me halfway. They would say, okay, we appreciate what you are doing for yourself and hope you maintain it. Now, there will be resistance also, some places where I'm going, there may be people who will not accept that, But that's okay with me too. It's me. I'm going to keep my side of the street clean. It's not about keep cleaning their house. It's about me. I should never be judgmental. I shouldn't be, overzealous about something that I'm doing. And what are my motives in making these amends? That's something I need to look at first. What are my motives? Is it self-forgiveness, or is it to get the the understanding or the acknowledgement of that other person? Oh, you're doing a good job. No, is that it? This is something I need to look at. If I do this, I have to do it for myself. The harms that I have done to others is what is harming me. That is hurting me. I always talk to you about my father when I made that amend to my father. The opportunity presented itself. That was only 10 years back. That means 24 years in sobriety is the first time that I sat down with my father. Was I ready or was I not ready? I don't know. But the opportunity presented itself. I was home for an Easter. I was planning to migrate to Australia at that time, all my papers, everything done. And I was at home in Easter, April, month of Easter, I was asked to go to church by my dad. I was quite a religious fanatic, not fanatic, because he grew up in those lines. And I refused, and he does not like being told. When you're told to do something, especially something like that, something that is righteous according to him, he does not like it. And he blew his stop. It's a good for nothing. You never listen to me. I heard quite a bit of it. But since I was on the spiritual beam, I just didn't shout at him. Or I didn't shout back. I didn't retaliate. I picked up my pad, took a pen, went to him, said, Dad, give me 10 minutes and I'll get back to you. I went into the bathroom, my toilet, I sat down there and I started writing down 10, 12 points. It took me about half an hour or so. I had to reflect on it because my mind was already disturbed. I wrote down those 10 or 12 points. And I came back to my dad and said, Dad, can we sit down and talk? Sat down and talk. He didn't know, for skeptical, this son of his had never talked like that. And then I spoke to him point by point, the reason why, what alcoholism had done to me, what recovery means to me, what my family life is all about, what my spiritual life is all about, what my, marital life is all about, what my social life is all about, why I didn't match up to his expectations. I sat down there and I spoke to him. I said, Dad, this is who I am. I'm back on the road again. But this time I know where I'm going. And I need your help. The same father who said, you stop drinking, I'll take care of you for the rest of your life. But I couldn't make the grade that he wanted me to be. He was an engineer. He was a scholarship student and he was an engineer. And, he expected his son to be that way, but he turned out to be an alcoholic. Today, I can resonate and understand how, dejected or, how crestfallen he might have been, So this is the sort of, so when I sat down with him and I spoke to him, he said, oh, my God, I didn't know you had all these problems. You went through all this. And I said, we never had a father-son conversation. We didn't have a one-to-one conversation before. That is making an amendment. I made that effort. He's dead and he's no more. But at least, I made that effort of, sitting down with him and reasoning out with him, so I could get out a lot of misconceptions he may have had about me. I don't know what he thought, but his forgiveness was as, I didn't know that you were going through so much. I hope you're able to deal with life in the future. So that was a sort of a blessing that I had. So today I don't regret it. But had I not made that amend, that would always play in myself. And that is why an amend is very, very essential. By an apology and an amend, there's a difference. An apology is just a face-to-face thing. Oh, I'm sorry, whether you mean it or not. You step on somebody's toe while you're walking on the street. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you mean it? No, it was an accident. You said, sorry, fine, great. But an amend is something that you feel that you want to do so that, you could eradicate that harm or hurt that you have within you and help the other person, It's the indirect amends, finding ways to repair damage that cannot be revised or undone. So volunteering to help others. When you've done harm, made direct amends, where supposing I was working for a company, a firm where I padded accounts, right? I'm still employed there. Can I walk up to my employer and say, I padded about 250,000 rupees from your account? Oh, I'm so sorry for it. I'm sure you'll be kicked out. You'll be, they'll put a case on you and, they'll have you behind bars. So I need to be prudent and discreet in what I'm doing. This is where a sponsor comes in and now you can get the help of it. You get the wisdom from, your experience. That is when you ask God, you use the 6th and the 7th step, which God is doing for you what you cannot do for yourself. He's preparing you for the eventuality of, you're making amends and turning to be a different person, so you can look people in the eye. You remember a time when I couldn't look people in the eye. I was ashamed of myself. I was guilty all the time. I was remorseful. How would I look people in the eye? But when I come to step 8 and 9, I start looking, my head starts lifting. It starts looking at people because I know I'm doing something right. For the first time in my life, I'm doing something right. I'm being inspired. I have God I have that God sense in me, the goodness sense. We say goodness is in me, and I want to be a good human being. And that's the aim of every human being. Even though I was a drunk and I was a self-imposed prison that I lived in, I didn't want to be there. It's my sickness that made me the person I was. Today, I want to come out. I want freedom from the bondage of alcohol happen, freedom from the bondage of fear it was happening. And now freedom from the bondage of self is happening. And I can only get freedom from the bondage of self when I let go of those people, places, and things that is bothering me. See, I carry this in my head. My head is a mess. Now I'm sorting out that mess. So you go for a bath and you don't comb your hair, what happens? Your hair is a mess, but you run the comb over it, it stays. Now, if you want it to stay further, put some gel on it and it stays further. So there are ways of working through my thinking, I have to, each stage is a stage where I look into the imperfections of mine and try God's way. So again, you heard Hemant say, God's will matching my will. God's will for me is to be happy, joyous, and free. God's will for me is to go out there and live life to its fullest. That is what my creation is all about. But I didn't do that because, I was a disaster. I was living a disastrous life. I was a victim of alcoholism. But today I'm in recovery. Recovery from a hopeless state of body and mind. They say, I've recovered. Now my mind is recovering. The body has recovered. The mind is recovering. Healthy body and a healthy mind, they say. So this recovery happens. And the rule book or the tools are given to me of how to live this life, So living amends. When you show yourself as well as others that you have made a genuine lifestyle change and you are not making or to commitment of yourself and to others that you have hurt. So it goes to say, I'm making a genuine change in myself. It's not to impress anyone or anything. My attitude has changed. The way I approach people, approach situations has changed. And you're not doing this, and people realize that you are genuine. Most of our families have this problem, when living, that we talk less. We do what we have to do. The previous one, indirect amends, I didn't complete it. I have padded this account. How do I pay back? I can't go to them and say anything. So what do? I put in extra hours of work. I see where I can be helpful, where the company, could gain something out of me and my expertise. So, see, all these things can be dealt with if I have a trajectory of doing things or new way or conception of living and a new way of thinking. So when it comes to the living amends, I don't go and tell them, see, I have changed, which I have done. Believe me, I said, Ma, I stopped drinking. So stop troubling me, leave me alone. As though, I did something great by stopping drinking. As though I was doing her a favor. My sponsor, insulted me or, dragged me down to the pits in my first birthday. You heard that story, he said, what is all this tamasha for? All your life, you've been a pain and a source of, disturbance to everyone. And suddenly you're sober for 1 year and you want people to clap for you? Oh my God, what a humiliating thing that was. My first year when I was going to receive my check. So this program, teaches me how to become a human from an inhuman. I was inhuman. Today, I am becoming a human. And step 9 is a vital step in that where I make these amends. A lot of people would have died, and you would have noted. So you write a letter to them. You could go and sit down with the family of the person who is dead and talk about it and say, I'm so sorry and I'm so concerned. I wanted to be there, but I couldn't do it. So, there are so many ways of making amends. That's cleaning your side of the street. Don't take it literally. Don't take a broom and go and start cleaning the side of when it says cleaning your side of the street, means keeping yourself on the beam, on the spiritual being, spirit ritual. That means your spirit has a ritual, a discipline, and you're on that beam. So when I have made this, 9-step, when I have made these amends, there is such a relief that comes about me. And I read the 9-step promises last time, or after this, before the question hour, we would be talking about, someone could read that 9-step promises. If we would be amazed before we are halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. All those things started happening in my life. I had a new employer. I had a new direction in life. And so I'm free now. I'm free. Free from guilt, shame, remorse, because I know I'm working on myself. There'll be quite a few of them which I will leave behind to say that supposing I have financial amends to make to somebody. Without the money in your pocket, or without a way of, a trajectory in which you can pay back, don't approach that person, because you could get hurt there, just because you sobered. Oh, I sobered up, I want to pay you back. You don't even have a bloody job. You can't even take care of your family. Yeah, so you have to be prudent. This is where you need the help of a sponsor or another human being in your life, because they are the instruments that God has put into my life. God says, use them, and if I use them, I know that my conscience will be clear, I have taken the right advice. So when I have done with this, I come to step 10, continue to take personal inventory, and when I was wrong, promptly admitted it. What is continuing to take personal inventory? That means step 8 and 9 had done an inventory. Step 4, I have done an inventory. Step 8 and 9, I'm continuing, because making amends is such a scary thing. It's not, it's not something that everyone would love to do. So if I have a daily amend, if I make continuing to take when I retire, before I retire at night, I tell my sponsees this, that when you get up in the morning, go on your knees, pray to God, ask Him for direction. Secondly, make an agenda for the day. 4 or 5 things that you have to do during the course of the day. Then have your breakfast, call 3 or 4 people so that you get out of yourself. And at the end of the day, see what you have achieved. Because if you don't have an agenda, you wouldn't know where you are. So if you have an agenda, you know what you have achieved during the course of the day. Right? So in that course of the day, if you have to make any amends to somebody, you might as well make it. If you call somebody and say, I'm sorry, or if you owed somebody some money and you didn't forgot to give it, you give it back. So these are the amends. So the next day morning, you wake up with a clear head. Supposing you're emotionally disturbed, on that particular day, you 12-step yourself back into emotional sobriety. Whatever is disturbing you, you go back and say, God, I'm powerless over this particular situation that is tormenting me, and life is becoming unmanageable. You 12-step yourself into emotional sobriety. You talk about it to somebody else. You have a way of life. You have a way, you have that daily reprieve that comes from being honest. Yesterday, we were talking about honesty. For the first time in my life, I'm being honest. See, not all my character defects and all these directions that I have are going to go away. They will be there. But I'm aware of it. And I'm able to deal with it on a daily basis. I don't want to keep it for the back burner or put it in a trunk or sweep it under the carpet anymore. I have God's help. You see, so I daily, before I go to sleep, I make this effort of reviewing my day and seeing where I've gone wrong. A simple thing is like, road rage. Today, my phone fell down and it broke. Another fellow, whacked. I got a new rear view mirror. Somebody whacked it from one side and that also went down. I could have made one hell of a, scene out of that. I just went on as though nothing happened. I just looked at myself and said, it could have been worse. I went for the mass with my children, which I have not been to church. I don't remember when I went to church last. And it's not that I'm against church or religion. No, my policy is different. And that's what the way I like to keep it. I went there. Why? Because my daughter was taking part in a service which she wanted me to be there. And that was being spiritually and morally right. I let all prejudices be aside and be there to support my daughter in what she feels she thinks is right. She listens to me from here and says, Pa, I hear everything that you say. So, when I live a morally upright life, things start happening in my life. The phone didn't bother me, okay, I'll get it tomorrow. I knew, luckily I got Hillary on the line. I said, post it. People may think, Philip is a wife. No, let them do their thinking. That's their problem. So, when I do step 9 and 10, it is, a sort of being at peace with oneself. I do it because I want to be at peace with oneself. I want to be oneness with God. These worldly allurement and frailties pull me down. It's so many things are there in the flesh. We're not human beings on a spiritual journey. We are spiritual beings on a human journey. Very much we forget it most of the time. We think that we are doing the spirit a favor. Wrong. The spirit, we are privileged that our body has been taken over by the spirit, and the spirit wants to journey with us. When I look at it on those lines, it makes a whole lot of a difference. And whatever I went through in life to be here on this 25th of December, 2021, had to go through it. That is what it took for God to, iron me, shape me, and mold me to be speaking to you. So when I look at that, whatever infirmities that I've been through, whatever pain, trauma, whatever I've been through, it was worth it. At that time, it didn't feel so, but it was worth it. So tomorrow I'll be talking about step 11 and 12, and step 11 is one hell of a step, sought through prayer and meditation. What is prayer? What is meditation? To improve my conscious contact with God. Where is God? Where is God? God, well, let's find out that where God is. So tomorrow we'll be talking about, having conscious contact with God, as I understood it, praying only for knowledge. Do I have knowledge? I thought I was a dumbo, For of His will for me, God's will for me, and the power to carry that out. The radiance of this group, the radiance of the love that's shown to me, showered to me by this God of my understanding, and through all you people, it's overwhelming. It's really overwhelming. From this drunk that 32 years back who thought he was finished. I didn't know whether I would be 35 years old. I didn't know. I sobered up when I was 32. I didn't know I would see the next year, but here I live to tell the story. So it is something beyond me that has got me to be the person that I am. And I want that for each one of you. I don't live a perfect life. No, I have my problems, ups and downs, everything happens. But then, I take each day as it comes. Tomorrow is another day. And that's what Hemant was talking also, So I thank each one of you for this wonderful happening, that is happening in our life. Let it happen. Don't stop it. When it happens, it's God's will that is happening in your life. When I put my will into it, it's like throwing spanner into the work. Don't do that. Trust the process and let God take care of every part of your life, which we'll be talking about tomorrow when we come together. So Merry Christmas to one and all of you. Let the peace and serenity that we pray for be amongst us. Good luck. God bless. Thank you very much.
Beautiful, Philip. Brilliant.